Hey, welcome back to Monday to Sunday. I'm breaking from our usual format this week, because something happened yesterday that I couldn't just let slide by without talking about it. Pope Leo XIV released his first encyclical. It's called Magnifica Humanitas, which translates roughly as the splendor of humanity, and it's entirely focused on artificial intelligence. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. The Pope commenting on AI. Is this going to be out of touch? Is this going to be a bunch of warnings from an institution that doesn't really understand what's happening? I thought the same thing before I actually read it. And I want to talk to you about why I was wrong. This document surprised me. Not because it's radical or shocking, but because it's wise, and I think the timing of it landing right now, in 2026, when most of us are living inside AI in ways we barely even notice anymore, makes it worth 20 minutes of your time. So let's get into it. The encyclical opens with a choice. Leo puts it plainly right at the start. He says humanity is facing a pivotal decision. Either we're building a new Tower of Babel, or we're building something worth living in. That's a striking image. The Tower of Babel, for those less familiar with the story, is the biblical account of humanity reaching for the sky through its own collective power, only to lose the ability to even communicate with each other in the process. Division, confusion, ambition without wisdom. And Leo is saying, that's the risk on the table right now with AI. But here's what I found interesting. He doesn't open with condemnation. He's not saying technology is bad or that AI is the devil. He explicitly says technology has always been part of human history. It's bound up with our freedom and our creativity. Over centuries, it's lifted billions out of poverty, extended lives, opened up the world. The question he's asking is more subtle. Who holds this power now, and what are they using it for? Because here's the thing Leo names that I think a lot of people feel but don't quite articulate. The big difference with AI isn't just the technology itself, it's where the power sits. He points out that in previous industrial revolutions, governments were largely the ones steering the ship, setting rules, distributing benefits, managing consequences. Today, the main drivers of AI development are private companies, often transnational, operating across borders, with resources that exceed many governments. And there's no real democratic accountability for that. Nobody voted for the people shaping these systems. This is the part of the encyclical I keep coming back to. Leo talks about something he calls what must not be lost, and he gets into two philosophies, transhumanism and posthumanism, that he says are creeping into how we talk about AI without most of us realizing it. Transhumanism is the idea that humans can and should transcend our biological limits through technology, live forever, enhance our cognition, upgrade the body. There's a whole tech culture around this, and honestly, some of it sounds appealing on the surface. Posthumanism goes further. It starts to suggest that the very category of human might be something we move beyond, that what we are now is just a stepping stone. Leo's response to this isn't to dismiss it with a wave. He actually engages it seriously. And what he says is, the things that make us irreducibly human, our capacity for love, for suffering alongside another person, for meaning-making, for grace, these are not bugs to be patched out. They're the whole point. He uses this phrase that stuck with me, the authentic, more than human. And he says it's not found in augmentation or enhancement. It's found in grace. In the Christian understanding, becoming more than human has always meant becoming more fully ourselves, through relationship with God and with each other, not replacing humanity with something post-human, but deepening it. Now, whether you're a person of faith or not, I think there's something in this worth sitting with, because we are living through a moment where the culture around AI does carry an implicit theology. The idea that intelligence is the highest value, that consciousness can be replicated or surpassed, that death is just an engineering problem. And the Pope is asking, is that really the world we want? Is that really what we're building toward? One of the chapters one wasn't expecting to hit as hard as it did was the section on work. Leo draws the comparison to Rerum Novarum very deliberately. His predecessor, Leo XIII, 135 years ago, wrote that encyclical in response to the Industrial Revolution. Workers being displaced, exploited, reduced to instruments of production. The Church said then, no. A worker is not a machine. A wage must be tied not just to what you produce, but to what you need to live with dignity. Leo XIV is saying the same thing is happening now. Automation and AI are already reshaping what kinds of work exist, who gets paid for what, and which communities get left behind. He talks about families, specifically young people, and the social conditions for hope. That phrase. The social conditions for hope. What does a young person need to believe that their future is worth building? They need work that has meaning. They need to be able to imagine a family, a home, a life. And when entire categories of human skill become devalued overnight by a technology they didn't choose and can't control, that hope erodes. This isn't ludism. Leo isn't saying stop the machines. He's saying the gains of AI need to be shared. That the disruption cannot simply be offloaded onto the most vulnerable while the benefits accumulate at the top. He calls for what he describes as an economy that values dignity. Not just productivity. Dignity. The final chapter is where Leo gets most explicitly theological, and honestly, most personal. He talks about what he calls the civilization of love versus the culture of power. The culture of power is what you get when strength becomes the only currency, when dominance, control, the ability to surveil and shape and manipulate, when those become the goals. He talks about AI weapons specifically, about the normalization of war, about how technology without ethics doesn't make conflict rarer, it just makes it more efficient. And against that, he holds up this vision, this civilization of love. It's not sentimental. He's not saying everyone should just be nice. He's saying there's a different architecture of society possible. One built on solidarity rather than domination. On subsidiarity, the idea that decisions should be made as close as possible to the people they affect. On the common good rather than the concentration of wealth and power. He ends with the Magnificat, Mary's song from the Gospel of Luke. He has lifted up the humble. He has sent the rich away empty. And he's saying, that's still the calling. That's still what faith looks like in action. Whether you come at this from a position of faith or not, I think that image of a society that centers the humble rather than the powerful is one worth arguing for. So why am I breaking from our usual format to talk about this? Because I think we're in a moment where the big voices on AI are almost exclusively technical voices or commercial voices. And this document is something different. It's a moral voice, an ancient institution taking seriously its responsibility to speak up when humanity is at an inflection point. You don't have to be Catholic to take it seriously. You don't even have to be religious. But I think if you care about what kind of world we're building, and I think you do, or you wouldn't be listening to this show, then Magnifica Humanitas is worth your time. The full text is on the Vatican's website. I'll put the link in the show notes. That's it from me this week.